Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine, and this week we've got stocking trucks on the roll throughout Massachusetts and Connecticut, which is really firing up the trout fishing in those states. We've got largemouth bass fishing that's really coming to life throughout all of southern New England. And we have holdover stripers on the chew. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
So before we begin, I just want to remind everybody that there is a photo contest ongoing. The grand prize winner will take away one of these Floyd Roman Nike plugs that I built. I'll do it in whatever color you like. And the two runners-up will get plugs from Usher. And basically there's only two rules. One, the photo has to be recent, so you can't send me that picture of the algae you caught in September. And two, you got to show yourself with the fish. So either, bring a tripod or set the phone up against a tree or have your friend take the photo. Send it in to danderson@thefisherman.com and get it to me before April 13th. I'll pick a winner the following week, and then we'll probably start another one. So I'm really excited to see what you guys are catching. I know fishing is really exploding out there right now, and I'm expecting some good stuff, so make sure you impress me. Another thing that's really important to mention right now is that the striped bass meetings are ongoing throughout the whole Striper Coast. I'm going to put a document or a link to a document in the show notes here. You can click through and find out when your state's meeting is. If you're from Rhode Island, you're too late. It was last night. There were a few takeaways. Probably the most glaring was that the meeting was grossly underattended. There weren't even 40 people in that meeting. But some great things that came out of it were that, there were a lot of people voicing their opinions, which was great. It's always good to hear opinions, even if they don't align with your own. That's how compromises are made. That's how decisions are made. And, but the other thing was that there was overwhelming support for most of the most conservative measures. So, people were voting down conservation equivalency because they don't want to see it abused and they don't want to see it used when overfishing is known to be occurring. If you don't know what conservation equivalency is, basically the ASMFC comes up with a reduction target, and then they come up with a way that they believe that the states can achieve that, but then they put it back in the states' hands, and they're allowed, if they would like to come up with their own way to achieve the same target, to send it back to the ASMFC, and if they approve it, then it goes into law. So that's why sometimes you see striped bass, on almost every state has the same limit. Maybe it's 28 inches or bigger, and then one state has totally different rules. Well, they used conservation equivalency to come up with their own way of achieving the reduction target, and it was approved by the ASMFC. Another thing that came away from the meeting was that people, even though they were voting for a lot of the most conservative measures, they don't want to see closed seasons. That's another possible way that the ASMFC sees achieving their reduction targets by choosing 2-week periods in the season. There might be one, there might be two of them. It was hard to tell for sure, but they make it so it's illegal to target striped bass during those 2 weeks. As someone who lives close to the coast, wouldn't hurt me as much. I mean, I love to fish for stripers, and if it was during, the new moon, it would really hurt me. But Dennis Zambrata, legendary surf fisherman from Rhode Island, brought up a really good point, saying that, these coastal states, they're destination states. Guys are, people, families are coming here from all over the country. And, they're chartering boats, they're buying gear, and a lot of them are coming here with the expectation of having the opportunity to catch a striped bass. So, when you plan a destination vacation like that, and then you show up here and find out that the thing you were most excited about, you can't do it, it's kind of a kick in the pants. And so hopefully, that's going to be that measure won't pass, and, hopefully it'll only be considered for, emergencies, down the road if other measures don't hit the mark. But, again, it was great to see differences of opinion. It was great to see, guys really really putting their heart and soul into it. Hoping, when I go to the Massachusetts meeting and some of these other ones, that more people show up. And that means each one of you guys out there, tune in or take the drive and, show support, because, we need to have compromise, we need to have opinions, and we need to come up with a way to, to move forward with the striped bass fishery. So now we're over in Massachusetts, and as I mentioned in the intro, stocking trucks are on the road now, and the fishing is, surprise, surprise, really responding. We're hearing about great catches of trout from basically from Boston down to Fall River and then all the way out to the Cape. So in that southeast region of Massachusetts seems to be where the best fishing is occurring, and I think that's where most of the trucks are rolling right now. And, you're hearing about guys catching fish on bait, hearing about guys catching fish on tins and spoons and spinners and jerk baits and everything. The fish, when they first get stocked, they're hungry and they're not very smart. So a lot of opportunity to bend the rod out there. And, both Mass and Connecticut, but we're talking about Mass right now, they stock some really nice sized fish. So you got really good opportunity to get a really good fish. The other thing, of course, is the largemouth bass fishing, which has been really great. We're going to start to see herring filtering in now. In fact, we're seeing herring in certain places already, and that's only going to serve to get these bigger fish even more excited. And it's also going to usher in the big bait fishery, which, if you ask me, has already begun. And so that's going on. I did hear about some holdover striper action on the Merrimack River, also with some pike mixing in. Certain that there are still holdovers being taken in Boston Harbor, and I asked around on the Cape. Nobody had caught any yet, or at least maybe they didn't want to say that they had. But the fact that holdover fishing is good in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and points north of Massachusetts would only lead me to believe that there has to be some holdover fish biting on the Cape as well. Things are looking good in Massachusetts, and they're only going to get better from here. And while we're talking about trout on the Cape and in Massachusetts, I talked to Roy Leva again this week, and he gave us a short video on, his thoughts on targeting trout in the early spring. Take it away, Roy.
Hey Dave, checking in on this beautiful, gorgeous, almost spring day. This week is going to be phenomenal out here in Western Mass. I think temps are supposed to get out into the 70s on Friday, which is going to fire up a whole lot of different fish species. But one of my favorites that I love to do this early in the season is look for holdover trout, especially in some of these big streams and small streams as well. And I love doing it with a jerk bait. So for me, my preference on this is, at the very short, it's a 6.5 foot rod to 7.5. And I leave home the ultralight and I go to a light, because I want something with a little bit more backbone. I want something that's going to work that jerk bait perfectly. I like matching it with any Shimano 1000 size reel or whatever your preference is, and then 5-pound Power Pro tied directly to about 4 feet of 4-pound test fluorocarbon. Right here I'm using actually a live target, and even though there's a lot of great jerk baits and there's a lot of them that I use, this one for early season seems to work really well for me. It holds its naturalness. These fish have been here for a little while, so they're pretty smart. So you gotta fool them a little bit, and I think the closest you can get to being natural, the more success you're gonna have. So I'm gonna go take some casts and see how I do. I'll have an update for you guys next week. Take care, get out. It's a beautiful week for this. Stay tuned. Catch you later.
Over in Rhode Island, we're fresh off of the RISA show, and I spent parts of all 3 days at RISA, and it was great to see all the readers and talk to people I haven't seen in a long time, because we haven't been at shows for 2 years. So the overall feeling in the show was very positive. Just a lot of people happy to be out, happy to be shaking hands with other fishermen again, buying gear. I talked to quite a few shops who said they did very well. And as far as the Fisherman goes, we were happy with our results also. So that was one thing that was great. I talked to a lot of the charter caps that we deal with. Talked to most of the shops that made it to the show. And so one thing that was talked about a lot was just this cod fishery this year, and how it just really hasn't come together as a biomass of fish. They're really just bouncing around from spot to spot, trying to pull 1, 2, 3 fish off of each little hang, wreck, or ledge. And now with fuel prices skyrocketing, thanks to our Russian friend over there, it may become cost prohibitive. So if you're dying to get out there, I would go soon before the gas stocks, run out of their fuel reserves and then they have to fill up and, raise their prices. But overall, that fishery has been pretty slow. Holdover fishing, though, in Rhode Island has been picking up again, and we're starting to see these fish becoming more active and more aggressive. And that would lead me to believe that there are some herring kind of making their way into these estuaries. Guys are getting fish on swing plugs now, and and they're able to fish at a more normal pace. You don't have to fish super slow. So that's something that's been getting a lot of people excited. And all of the salt ponds along the South Shore have some measure of a holdover striped bass population, and the same could be said for all these tributaries that run into Narragansett Bay. Any one of them that has some deep water probably has some level of a population of holdover stripers. The hardest part is finding them, and but if you put in the time, you're going to find them. And it's a great way to start off the season. Instead of having to wait for those fresh fish to come, you get out there and you make it happen. Trout fishing is still closed in Rhode Island and will be until opening day in early April. It's the only state left in southern New England that still has a proper opening day. So you got to be careful if you're freshwater fishing not to fish in a trout stocked pond because they're closed until opening day. Did hear some good largemouth fishing also in Rhode Island, and that's a story that I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. In Connecticut, stocking sharks again are on the roll, and man, it just seems to really be firing up the fishing. All the shops I talked to were singing the praises of the state, just saying that they're doing a great job stocking. Guys are catching lots of fish. The rivers out west are well stocked. Lots of ponds in interior Connecticut are well stocked. And it seems like all these coastal ponds, especially in the central part of the state, have gotten their first doses of trout. So a lot of options, lots of fish being caught, and lots of happy people out there catching them. The only stipulation, don't forget, you have to release those fish until after that second Saturday in April. But it doesn't seem to be slowing anybody down. Guys are having a good time catching fish. And, don't forget, too, to go on the Deep website and read the rules of trout fishing here, because they are kind of convoluted. And I've been over them in the last 2 weeks, so if you're really scratching your head, watch last week's video and listen to me explain it. But hopefully they're going to smooth these out for next year. So while we're talking about trout, let's throw it over to Derek from Connecticut Fish Guides. Let's hear how things are going this week on the Farmington River.
All right, guys. Today for this week's report, Farmington River is fishing better. So we have a warming trend coming on right now, and that's going to get the bugs moving around. So right now we have a lot of midges hatching, and in the afternoons, early stones. You'll also get immature Hendrickson nymphs active in the mornings and on your clear sunny days. And on your overcast days, you can still see those midges, and your jig streamers and streamers are going to fish well. So you still want to play the temperature spikes. So there's still some snow and some ice melt. So if we get rain, you could see a negative spike. Okay, but that will recover pretty quickly. And the flows right now are around 500 CFS. So as the flows drop and become more steady, the fishing is going to get better as well. So overall, good outlook on the fishing for this week and into next week. Back to you, Dave.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate your insights. Really glad to have you aboard on this, and hopefully we'll see another video from you next week. Another thing that's still ongoing is that open water pike fishing on the Connecticut River. Seems to be better than normal this year. Guys are getting some bigger fish, which is always nice. Brightly colored jerkbaits by far are the top takers. You're going to get, you're going to have a really good shot at getting a 24 to 30 inch male, and we've seen more than a handful of these high 30 inch to low 40 inch females taken this year as well. You want to target the mouths of tributaries. That seems to be the secret, and you want to use brightly colored lures. Holdover striper fishing is the other thing that's got a lot of people's attention, and we're hearing about them really from one end of the state to the other. There's holdovers being taken in the Thames River. There's holdovers being taken in several tributaries and coves in the Connecticut River. There are holdovers being taken in the Quinnipiac River. And of course, the Housatonic is pumping out fish right now as well. And just like I was talking about in Rhode Island, the fish are more aggressive. We're seeing, the water's warming up, there's more bait, there's probably some herring in a lot of these places, and it's getting these fish fired up. So you're able to fish with SP minnows, you're able to fish with hydro minnows, you're able to fish with unweighted sluggos and fish them kind of fast, and you're getting hit. And, the bite is picking up, so you're getting more fish too. While we're on that subject, let's throw it over to Max from Fisherman's World, and let's hear what he has to say about what's going on in the western part of the state.
We got nice weather this week, and this is definitely going to have an uptick on the striped bass fishing on the Housatonic River. We've seen some big fish this past week in like the mid 20-pound range and a lot of in the high teen range. These fish are mostly still be calling at night on your favorite soft plastic on a lead head, and guys are getting them on SPs now, and that should just improve as we move into spring. In the trout fishing, all our rivers are open now, and you can harvest trout. You just got to abide by the local river regulations. Guys are getting them on spinners, jigs, little rapalas, and worms. Thanks and good luck.
Thanks, Max. Really appreciate all your insights. Looking forward to a full season of Max Finch and Fisherman's World. Thanks again for doing that. And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully you're going to find them helpful. If you're not a subscriber to the Fisherman, I suggest you go over to the website, check out what we got going on. You can see the reports, you can see all the articles that cover Delaware all the way up to Maine, and so many different disciplines of fishing in between. It's definitely a great investment. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. But if you're still not convinced, at the very least, give us a subscribe and a like here on YouTube, and hit that little bell thing down there so you get a notification every time we post something new. Don't forget to enter your photos in the contest, and don't forget to attend your striped bass meetings. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week.